Since the turn of the 21st century, we have seen rapid progress towards equality for lesbians, gays, bisexual, and transgender individuals in the United States. However, historic prejudice remains, particularly for an estimated 2 to 7 million LGBT elders. In order to survive, many of these elders learn to hide their lives, facing the fear of losing their homes, careers, faith communities, families, and even friends. They seldom disclose their true identities. Currently, the elder LGBT population is invisible to most service providers. They also remain invisible to the LGBT community at large.
When I was young, I don't think the word homosexual was in the dictionary. It might have been in medical dictionaries, but I don't think Webster's had it in.
You know, there was nothing out. If I went back to where I was 30, there is no information. The only information I ever got was from an old medical book, which scared me to death. You know, you're depraved, you're this, you're that. And there was no literature, there was no one to talk to.
We didn't have TV programs as we do now.
That's right.
Showing gay and lesbian people. You thought you were the only person in the world that was feeling this way.
Yes.
And you went to the library, you hid in the stacks, and you read The Well of Loneliness,
Right.
which was the only book. How we ever found that book, I don't know. I don't know who ever told me about this book. But you went and you read it in the library because you couldn't take it home for your parents to see.
Growing up in Oklahoma, I don't think that for a long time I even realized what my difference was. There wasn't anybody around that I, related to that I was a gay person or was an out person or, had anything that remotely would lead me to say, I'm like that person, or, I need to talk with them, or anything like that. I probably didn't really realize until I was in college.
I think when I was about 23 or 4, I read some books about it, and that was the only way I learned, and sent a book to my parents as kind of just to kind of share with them what I was finding out about myself. And it was one of these books back then that was blaming parents for, like the mother was too close and the father was too distant and that kind of thing.
I realized I was not like other little boys when I was 5. Now, when I was 5, was in the early 40s in a small community in the Appalachians. This was something completely unheard of. In fact, in our small town, we didn't have anyone who was gay or lesbian, let alone transgender. There were no books. There were no sources of information. Expressing myself was impossible.
Well, they called us queer, and it was considered an abnormality. Even Ann Landers said it was a maladjustment.
My family for years in my 20s and 30s wanted to know when I was going to get married and why didn't I find a guy and, and settle down, kind of, quote unquote.
Having endured a time in which they were shunned for their sexual orientation or gender identity, many LGBT elders remain fearful of being out.
My partner and I have been together 42 years, although most of that time we've been really closeted, and most of the time we haven't lived together. DJ had a very professional relationship and needed to be very careful in her work or she would have lost a whole career. So we've really had to play a pretend game for most of our time.
My sister didn't know I was gay until I came out with this story in the newspaper. I had never told her. She has a husband who's a real bigot, and her whole family is. I'm isolated away from them entirely because of this. So that's what happens. Older people rely on family, and so they come out, it isolates them away from family.
Being in the closet was sort of a thing that was taken for granted in a lot of ways. The people who were out when we were younger were pretty outrageous.
I have personal friends who lost their jobs because they were recognized as homosexuals. And they were just told that, I'm sorry, we don't have room for you on the faculty anymore.
Because of a lifetime of discrimination and hiding who they were, many LGBT elders are afraid to access services, resulting in social isolation, depression, poverty, poor health, and premature death.
I think the isolation that these people feel is profound. They don't have, especially if their spouse has passed, they don't have a social network. They spend a lot of time alone. You can feel a piece of them missing. You can feel their passion. You can feel their desire for happiness and life be diminished.
Being a lesbian caregiver myself, if I were to turn the tables and put some years on myself, I would say it would be horrible. It would be like taking a hunk of your soul away because that was your life and you're not able to share it. How would you tell your story? You know, your story would be missing.
This lady that I was with yesterday found a partner in our group. That partner was living in a assisted living place that did not take gays, so she had to lie.
LGBT elders are 4 times less likely to have children and twice as likely to live alone. Yet they are 5 times less likely to access senior services.
Transgender people worry a lot about accessing medical care, and I suspect that they will actually avoid that setting forever, if possible, because of the discomfort that comes up. And I think that the culture that has to be set up has to come from the top. And so if a nursing home director, for example, wants that inclusivity and wants to have diversity in their nursing home, they've got to really believe it, set up those policies, and then train their staff.
I think healthcare providers need to know that I am transgender. A transgender person need not necessarily have had surgery. And sometimes there are surprises there.
Well, if we had to go into, or I had to go into a long-term care facility, I think it would be very scary. To not know what staff would be accepting, whether you could be open with staff and say, this is what I've been in my life and I'd like to continue that life, or have to hide again, as we did when we were younger.
LGBT elders want assurance that their service providers will treat them with understanding and respect.
I think discrimination definitely still goes on, but that overt stuff is so obvious to me that we can deal with it when it happens. It's the subtle stuff. It's not asking the right questions. It's saying, were you married, instead of who did you spend your life with, or tell me about people that were important to you, or people say, well, did you have children? Everything is very, very binary and heterosexual in this world, so we don't ask questions in an open way. And the forms we create, intake stuff, it's all the same way. So it really, really is exclusive instead of inclusive.
Somebody on staff needs to say, what is your lifestyle? What has it been? What is it now? Who will be coming to visit you? or whatever terms they want to use. But they need to ask the question. And I need to be free to say whatever I need to add to that. You know, Carmen's been my life partner, and she's going to be coming every day.
Were I to speak to other CNAs, per se, in a more restrictive corporate situation, I would tell them that diversity is apparent in every given situation, and that if you step outside of your house, you're going to be in a diversified population regardless of what you do.
As service providers become increasingly educated and aware, LGBT elders who have historically been fearful and isolated need not remain invisible.
I think that the difference in us, in our lives, is that we always kind of lived a lie, you know, and people who are in the closet are living a lie and can't be truthful, and therefore always, you know, are hesitant about relating to society. And I think younger people who are open at a much younger age are not going to live that lie.
No.
I've learned to be proud of who I am. I'm not ashamed to be transgender. It's who we are, and it's not a moral issue. I mean, why would it be a moral issue to be who we are?
Well, I've always felt that the more of us who come out of the closet, the better. Let people know what we are, and then there can be more understanding and acceptance.
People in the next generation are going to be better yet. I was just born too soon, I guess. Maybe not.